Good morning all, and welcome again. We're doing a rerun on the geyser support, the one we did the last time. We had many questions on it, and we are going to do it a bit slower. We removed a few of the slides that could have maybe confused you. And this rerun is going to entail the following. It's going to just look at the process you follow when you arrive at the scene of this geyser replacement. How do you approach it, what the timber support must look like, and then we are going to give you the what the standard says about the timber support, and there is a problem inside the standard in terms of the sizing that is given. We're going to address that. We're going to look at how the support must be used if you are using a 38 by 114 as given, and then we are going to show you how we can actually give this geyser adequate support without changing the standard. We're actually upsizing on the standard and making it safe for all, and we'll still be within the standard when using this support. And then obviously it goes about time when you're working in the insurance industry. You don't want to waste time in building supports that is going to take you a long time. So let's start it. Structural support of a geyser, what to look for and what will be deemed a failure. Note that we are not talking about new builds, as SANS 10254 is very clear in Annex B, and SANS 10252 Part 1 what the support must consist of. We are talking about existing buildings now. How do you as a plumber manage this critical safety issue? Let's take a step back to opening the manual. Sorry about that, I just have to get my screen back again. There we go. You open the manual, and what's the first thing you do? You drain the geyser. No, guys, you don't just go ahead and do it. You inspect the current installation for all the non-compliances. List the non-compliances. That will take you 5 minutes. First, go through it and see what you are going to do before you start this replacement. You ascertain if there's a critical non-negotiable safety issue that exists, which will affect your installation, bearing in mind betterment. So, you know, if you have to change the support, somebody's going to pay for the support if it's not in your service level agreement, or if you're doing it not even for the insurance, but you're doing it for the client itself. He is going to expect you to do it for the price you most probably quoted on a rough estimate. So it's going to be betterment if you are going to change the support. So you must negotiate this. You also list all the pre-existing non-compliances that exist pertaining to the geyser installation, which are non-critical safety issues, which you then also put on your COC at the end. That would be energy efficiency, like no R1 lagging rubber insulation around hot water piping, pipe work in roof not supported properly, but that's all pre-existing non-compliances. So that's the kind of stuff that you all list on your non-compliance. And then that is done. Once you've done all that work, it's done. So you find that there is a critical safety issue. The geyser is not properly supported. What do you do now? And the plumber complains, but the insurance company does not want to pay for this, or the client does not want to pay, but it stays a critical safety issue. It's a non-negotiable. What do you do? Remember, you've got a service level agreement with the insurance company. So that is not for the PRB or IOPSA or somebody to sort out for you. That's something that you have to sort out. You've got to negotiate this, get yourself away, soft skills to approach this. So if your installer is not up to it, teach your installer to phone you at the company. When something goes wrong like this, then you talk to the client yourself. Don't let the installer do it if he's not skilled to do this. So you have to get to your service level agreement, whichever way possible. That's the one that you have signed. And so it stays a non-critical non-compliance. The plumber should now liaise with the client or the incident manager, as he cannot ignore this critical safety issue. Geyser relocation maybe should be discussed, or upgrading of the support structure. And then be ready to supply a quick and clear quote for what the extra support cost will be. So When we go into the pictures now and the suggestions I make of the support here, we have put out there certain wood that you're going to use. So it'll be very clear that that is the wood you're going to carry with you. So it's not going to be every time a different kind of quote. You can have a standard quote once you know what your wood is costing you, because that's the pieces that you're going to carry with your vehicle the whole time. So if your installer phones in and says, "Sir, the support is not adequate," you can say to the client, "Sir, it's going to cost you X amount," because you've already calculated. It's going to be the same for each and every installation. So the client or the insurance company does not want to pay for the support. What do you do then? First of all, you write on the non-compliance form as a critical safety issue. You request the responsible person to acknowledge receipt of the non-compliance by signing for it. They say, "Sir, please, can you sign here that you acknowledge that you have a critical non-compliance in your roof pertaining to the support structure of the geyser?" You add that acknowledgement to your COC for the auditor to see and for your own records, because that is what's going to protect you once if you're being audited, and secondly, if that geyser falls through the roof, that you have proof that you have informed the client and that he's acknowledged the receipt thereof. So back to your non-compliant issue that you've got out there. There is a 50 by 76 bowing clearly, so it's a non-compliant issue out there. So you are going to have to upgrade it. You can take the photo, you can show the client, "Sir, but it's bending, it's bowing, it's not going to properly adequately support your geyser. I cannot take responsibility for this. You'll have to upgrade, otherwise you are going to have to sign this non-compliance." So what does SANS 10252 part 1 say? In paragraph 8.462, it says, "When a wooden platform is used to support a water heater or storage tank of capacity not exceeding 2 kiloliters, such wooden platform shall, unless otherwise required, be constructed as follows. The support shall be constructed from a structural timber that is at least 114 by 38 in cross section, placed on edge, and spaced not further apart than 350 millimeters." Please note this. It says 114 by 38, not flat, but placed on edge. So we're going to have a look at how, if we have to apply this standard, how would this platform look like, and what the consequences of the carpentry work that goes into it. And in SANS 10254, one of the normative references, once again, it says in B2.1, installation of drip trays. The drip tray shall be installed and mounted in the following manner. It shall be placed on the tie beams over a load-bearing wall and be supported by timber that complies with at least grade 5 and of size at least 114 by 50 millimeters, spaced not more than 500 millimeters apart. So here we are going to talk about wood that is being laid flat, obviously, again, and not on edge, because it's a 50. But we'll see later that 114 by 50 is not a standard size, but we're going to talk about it later. So let's just have a look at what grade 5 timber is. On the timber, you'll see there's a SABS mark, and you'll note that there is a 5 stamped on it there. That means grade 5 timber. It's been structurally tested, and that is the timber that must be used, not a piece of crate that you've cut up to size to fit in underneath or anything like that. Proper, decent timber. So let's have a look at this picture. Load-bearing wall. What does that mean? The walls on the outer side, which is marked with the blue arrows, that would be this outside perimeter wall of the house, for instance. The trusses are the black lines that I drew over there, and then the 2 red arrows are showing internal wall, which would be a structurally load-bearing wall, and the position of the geyser. So if there is a wall like that in between, that would be regarded as a load-bearing wall. So your trusses are supported in the center, and they are not spanning from side to side, and the geyser is now having adequate support on the trusses as well from this load-bearing wall. And if it's crossing the trusses at 90 degrees, exactly the same. I just changed the geyser just to show you that this is the way it can be supported as well, crossing at 90 degrees. And once again, the load-bearing wall marked in red and the outside wall in blue. And at a later stage, we'll see what if there is no load-bearing wall. In other words, those 2 red arrows are not there, and you have a long truss longer than 8 meters. We'll see how to support it then. So back to the 38 by 114, as we mentioned over there. Now this is placed on edge. You'll see the 11438 is standing upright on the roof truss marked with a red arrow, and there is a piece of wood marked with a blue arrow for supporting it in an upright position, because it will need a support, otherwise it's going to flop down if you put the geyser on it. So top view of it, you can see being nailed into the support and the support being nailed into the truss, clearly marked out there. So this is a 38114 placed on edge on top of the roof truss. But now bear in mind, if you start banging in these nails, what is going to happen? There's a vibration through the roof trusses. It's an old house. The ceiling at the bottom is going to start vibrating. All the clout nails, the polyfiller might start falling off, and eventually you end up replacing the ceilings because they are pulling through the nails. And I've had that. I've had to replace 2 ceilings because of exactly just that. When my guys went in there and they started banging these nails in to get these supports in place, and it vibrated. So we had to change to using the 75mm screws and cordless drills to drill it in there. So try not to fall into that same trap that I fell. Nailing it in, be careful, make sure that it is sound if you want to start nailing it in. And bearing in mind that the old trusses, if you're nailing into an old truss, it is very hard because of the resin becoming very hard. So let's have a look. Spacing to correspond with the geyser feet with cleat elevating for the slope. Once again, your 38114s, now the spacing marked with red arrows, exactly the same as the geyser feet apart, so that the geyser feet, once rested on top, can be placed on it. And you'll see with the blue arrow showing a cleat underneath the one section to elevate the geyser tray on the one side. So additional tray support in the center. So we have the two 38114s either side, the geyser feet marked with a yellow, now corresponding with the 38114 on edge. And in the center, you have the support, the additional support. And then it says additional support every 350 millimeters. So there should be another piece of wood in the center there to get it to space at about 350 millimeters minimum. So you use two 38114s under the tray for center support marked in red. That can be also done if you're not going to place any support underneath the geyser. In the center, you can also use two laying flat on top of your wood placed on edge. So adequately supported with 38114, 114 millimeters are placed on edge. You can see the long red arrow is the 38114, which is placed underneath the tray to support the tray in the center from sagging. And once again, the feet corresponding, and then the blue arrow showing you the cleat. So now it's got a slope towards the one side as well, and you have this setup done. But how long has this newfound hobby of carpentry taken you? You can spend up to a half an hour and sometimes even more cutting and sizing this, and then you start banging in nails and it starts making it very difficult and it's time consuming. So the disadvantages of this as well, it elevates the geyser when you're putting it in the roof, because now you're lifting it up with an extra 114 millimeters. The vacuum breakers might not even fit in. It's time consuming, and time is of the essence because you're working for the insurance industry. That's where you make money, is on the time that you save. Your plumber needs carpentry skills to make it stable. Geyser feet will be standing on only a 38 millimeter footing, where the geyser footing is actually 50 millimeters wide. You're banging in the nails, and the ceiling clout nails are coming loose in the process of pulling through the ceiling. So there's a lot of disadvantages in this, and time being the biggest one. So let's have a look at SANS 10254 again, when it says the drip tray shall be installed and mounted in the following manner. It shall be over a load-bearing wall and grade 5 timber and size at least 114 by 50. Okay, but now we said that it's not a standard size. 50 by 114 will have to be cut. So what is the easiest? The next size up available is 50 by 152. It's only 38 millimeters wider. So it's a standard size available out there, and we are actually now upgrading on the standard. Where the standard says 51 114, we're going 152. So it's actually being better. So we use the SABS grade 5 timber. So let's address this challenge you've got out there. How are we going to support this geyser if we are using it in the flat fashion? Because now we don't have the problem with the height. It's lowering the geyser once again. You only need a skill saw or a jigsaw, optional cordless drill if you want to screw it down. You can either pre-cut this wood at the office, and then sundries would be 75 millimeter nails or screws. What does the plumber need in his vehicle when he goes out to site in terms of support wood? grade 5 SA timber, you need one length of 3.6, one length of 3 meters, and one cleat of 1 meter. That wood is all going to be cut in half. If you cut each length in half, you've got the adequate support. You'll see how I used it all throughout. And those are prices I got from when I set up the photos. I purchased this wood, and that is what I paid for it in our area. So you might be paying more in your area or less. I've had people phoning say, well, I can get it much cheaper than that. And that is true. You can get it cheaper than that. So the total cost for me to put it on a load-bearing wall would be 265 Rand. So no load-bearing wall. You only have the walls at the end. And that distance is stretching over 8 meters. So how do you support that? Remember we spoke about it earlier. So your trusses are hanging over 8 meters, and you've got the geyser now sitting in the center of that. You have to strengthen the cord of the truss. You can see the blue arrow showing there and the red arrow showing there. Past the web brace, either side, 150 millimeters. So in SANS 10254 in Annexure B, it shows it very clear as well with the measurements. So 150 millimeters past either side. If you look clearly, you'll see, and then it is nailed to that cord of the truss in 150 millimeter zigzag fashion. You can see the nails being put into it. Of the zigzag nailing, or you can use screws, but that is how you are going to strengthen the truss cord. But once again, this is very difficult because now it's an old existing house. Sometimes there are other wood or pipes and stuff in play. So maybe you will consider moving it over a load-bearing wall or relocating the geyser, but you'll have to make that decision when you're in the roof. So what if you need to support the truss cord if no load-bearing wall? You need to add 4.2 meters to the wood that you carry, and that is an extra cost of 200 Rand. So the maximum total cost of the support will be 465 Rand for me that I use now in these pictures coming up. So let's recap. What wood do you need for the vehicle when going out on the geyser replacement? One 3.6, one 3 meter, 1 meter cleat. If the cord needs strengthening, you'll need 2 extra 4.2 meters, 38114. This will work for tiled roofs as well as sheet or metal asbestos roofs because the spacing of the roof trusses are different. So if you want to take a screenshot, do that quickly because that is quite of value if you know what you need, and that is why you can then easily make the quote once the guy gets in the roof. You know exactly what wood he's going to use. So different roof types in existing buildings. You'll have the tiled roof. The truss is spaced at 760 millimeters, an asbestos or Newtec sheet metal roof. Truss is spaced around 1.2 meters. So I've taken photos of both scenarios and you'll see how it works out. So typical support deemed adequate, where do we start? You start with sloping using the cleat or similar sized cleat to elevate the platform for creating the drip tray. There the cleat is placed on your roof truss. You can put it down with a nail or a screw. The blue arrow is showing where the cleat is now on the roof truss, and you've used the two 5152s, which was 3.6 meter length, which you cut in half. And on any roof, a metal or a tiled roof, it will span over the trusses. This would be for the tiled roof, so it's spanning over 3 trusses. You have the 5152 laying flat, and that's all you need. So you're only going to use those 2 pieces of wood, so it will even be cheaper then if you are crossing the trusses at 90 degrees. So there you have your geyser and tray placed on top of it, and it's adequately supported in less than 5 minutes, guys. Where you're going to put it on edge, it's going to take you much more. But here, less than 5 minutes, you've placed it down, and the weight of the tray, once the geyser is filled up, is going to keep that wood in play. Truss spacing 760 millimeters apart, crossing, and you can see a clear view that it's supported over all 3 trusses. So for supporting parallel to the roof trusses, you measure the feet distance apart on the geyser, and you place your 2 5152s exactly the same distance apart. The 5152s are now marked in red. They're spaced wider apart, the distance of your geyser feet. And then you take the 38114 by that 3.6, which you also then cut in half, and you place it on top. And that is marked with the blue arrows. Once again, you have your 2 little cleats marked with yellow arrows there, elevating the geyser at the rear end. So within less than 10 minutes now, you have the tray and the geyser supported adequately. The geyser feet marked in blue and the 50152s corresponding at the bottom. And you have the 38114 supporting the tray throughout at the bottom with a red arrow and your cleat elevating it at the back. As easy as that. Top view at the tray outlet side, showing the configuration of the wood. You can see there you have your tray outlet, and why I'm showing this picture is that the tray outlet is not flat over there. It's got this sort of protruding section that goes, and if you're going to put it flat on wood, it's going to push the tray up and it's going to create a backfall on your pipe as well as your tray. So now you have that section nicely fitting in between the two 38114s for your outlet. And then you see the pipe coming out of the geyser and an extra support. Do not forget the support for the pipes going out, and then obviously a decent holder bat, not a piece of wire or a tie strap or something like that. So for trusses, spaced at 1.2 meters, how does that work? Place two 50152s once again over the trusses. You can see also crossing at 90 degrees, and now the spacing is wider. You can see the blue arrow indicating the wider distance between the arrows or between the trusses, and then your cleat marked with yellow underneath elevating the geyser, and there you have your two pieces of wood. And this would be now for a metal sheet roof, also like an asbestos roof. You have your geyser and tray now fitted on top of it, and it's a wider span, 1.2 meters, but your 50152 would be adequate to carry that weight of that geyser. Remember that you can only go up to 200 liters in the roof without having a rational design. If you're going over the size of 200 liters, then you need a rational design, obviously, but we are talking about 150 and 200 liter geysers. Yeah, so there you can clearly see your outlet pipe marked in red going out there, and then on the next truss you have supported your outlet pipe. For supporting parallel to the truss, if the trusses are spaced that far apart, it looks quite busy, this slide, but you'll note once again your 50152s placed over the trusses marked in red arrows, your cleats in yellow for elevating the platform, and then your two 38114s for supporting the tray. And now you even have some extra space to stand on when you're working on the geyser on the sides of the off. So the geyser is now in place on this spacing of 1.2 meters and clearly marked out. Very easy to put in, not difficult. So what if the trusses are not on a load-bearing wall again? We're going to just recap on that one. Now we can see in that configuration, you have your web braces from the trusses marked with the red crosses over there. And then once again, you have that 4.2 nailed down along the length of the truss there. And that would go for all three trusses that the tray is supported on, or if it's just two, you'll support two of those trusses. And that is if it's not on a load-bearing wall. So let's wrap it up. Inspection first, arriving on the site. When you arrive on that site, guys, don't just jump in and do the job. See what the challenges are you've got out there, because you'll have to now first do the inspection. You clear up who is paying for the critical safety non-compliance rectification. Once you've cleared that out of the way, you can start draining the geyser. If there's a problem with the rectification note on the non-compliance, you get the responsible person to sign for it. And if you've got that, you're good to go. Ensure that the geyser is adequately supported. And then at the end, you issue the certificate of compliance with all the relevant information for the client and the auditor in plain, understandable language. That is what the Consumer Act says. You must put it in there. No use quoting all standards for the client. He does not know the standards. So write in an understandable language. Just writing R1 lagging, he doesn't know what R1 lagging is. Right there, no rubber insulation material around hot water piping. That is plain, understandable language. So that is the way you will be doing that. And then the auditor can see that you've noted all the non-compliances. But what if the client does not want to pay for this? And you can see this thing is going to fall through the roof because it's got a crack in the wood or whatever. Then personally, I would walk away. I won't do that, because then you are putting yourself in jeopardy. And then you can consult with the insurance company and say, take the photos, show them the proof of that you are putting yourself at risk or the client at risk. You do have that responsibility to show the client that this is really a risk. But if the client is happy and says it's been up there for 20 years and it appears to be okay, and the client is happy, Just make sure you've got it on your non-compliance and that he has signed for it, and he then takes the risk thereof. So you've passed your final inspection. Are there any questions? Thank you, Sean. Let's hear the questions.
All right, perfect. We do have a couple of questions here. The first one I do think you have answered, but just in case, it reads, in connection with nails for supports, can we use cordless drill and long screws?
Yes, please do use that, because I have fallen into that trap and I had to replace ceilings because the banging really takes the polyfiller off all the nails in the ceiling, and it's just not worth it because then you're going to work for free. So use the cordless drill, guys. That is the answer.
Right, the next one reads, I do a lot of steel work, so I often have to use a lot of steel beams as of cuts to the size of 76 by 76 by 3 square tubing left. Will it be acceptable to be used as supports?
The standard does not provide for the metal. It does not have anything in the standards on metal. I cannot answer that. I would say no, because we are abiding by the standard which says a timber support. You could use it if you are going to get a rational design. So if you've got an engineer that ticks it off and says, ticks all the boxes and it can be done, and you've added that to your COC that says, here's my rational design, it is adequately supported, and this engineer has certified it, I don't see any problem. But remember, you need to have that certification from a rational design.
The next question reads, with the elevated angle of a geyser, does your hot outlet need to be on the highest point?
Preferably, if you want to drain the geyser, that is normally the way around. But it doesn't make sense if it's going to be towards the lower end of the geyser, because it's not going to make it serviceable. We are not talking about a serious slope here. We are talking about a 1 in 44. It's only elevated with 22 millimeters on average. About roughly 25 will give you over that meter fall. So no, it doesn't have to be on this sloping side. The pictures I've put in, we just put it that way. But if you're going to put it in the roof, guys, make sure that you put the element and the thermostat side towards the higher side of the roof where you can service it, because it just makes serviceability so much easier. It's going to make no difference. The water's under pressure. There's no airlocks will form, nothing of that kind. So no, you don't have to have it on that side specifically every time.
All right. The next question reads, what is the standard for thatched roofs?
Okay, now this is a catch question. I cannot answer that at the moment. I'll have to come back to, if you can maybe just give me that email address, I will answer that to the person who requested that. On thatched roofs, obviously, the trusses are so designed that you have exposed ceilings. So I don't know what the trusses are going to look like in a thatched roof design. It's going to vary because you normally don't have ceilings in a thatched roof. So I don't know where they're going to support it. If they're going to have poles up there and you're supporting the geyser on those poles, I'm quite sure it's going to be adequate. But if you are unsure, and then you'll have to, consult with an engineer on that. But I don't really see that you're going to put a geyser on inside a thatched roof on trusses as such, because a thatched roof wouldn't have trusses, it would have poles and would be exposed as well. So I don't understand the question. Maybe if the person asking the question can pop me an email and maybe show me a photo of this challenge if he's had one like that, or we can discuss it. Then I can get to understanding exactly what he's meaning by what do we do in a thatched roof. But I don't think we'll have this coming up in a thatched roof scenario, no.
Right, the next question reads, a question on COCs. I saw that the jobs over 1,500 require COCs. I'd like to find out if this includes work that does not use material, i.e. block drains, or something where you work for 4 hours or so.
Well, this is outside of the parameter of my presentation now. I saw that there was a letter communication. I saw it last night on my email list. I haven't gone through it yet. And in that PRB communication that went out to all PRB registered plumbers, it explains it clearly. So go and look at your latest newsletter, which came out yesterday. And there it explains exactly on how you are going to have to apply this. And if you are unsure, you can contact the PRB and they can explain to you on that. But it's not within my scope of my presentation at the moment. Sorry, Guy.
All right, perfect. Another question has popped up. It reads, may you level the geyser by putting a piece of cleat under the feet instead of the tray, opposite side of where the cleat is under timber?
Okay, this is not for leveling the geyser, guys. This is for elevating the tray as such, so that if the water in the tray is resonant, it will flow out from the outlet. Otherwise, the geyser feet is going to stand in the water the whole time. And if the geyser feet are standing in, it's going to start rusting. So the cleat is there for elevating the tray so that it can create a slope for the water to drain out. It is not there to level the geyser. There's a perception that the geyser must be placed level inside the tray. Once again, we're not talking about a massive height here. We're talking about 25 millimeters maximum to create the slope of 1 in 40. So no, you do not place it under the feet of the geyser. Place it underneath the tray so that it can lift. And preferably, as I showed on the pictures, we are going to place it underneath the wood supporting. Otherwise, you place it under the tray is going to have a slight spacing underneath. And if you're not placing it correctly and it moves, you're going to have the feet cutting into the tray once again if it's not directly underneath the feet of the geyser. So place that piece of cleat under the platform that you use to elevate the geyser platform.
All right. The next question reads, as an inspector, I get to site and the plumber has noted the support as non-compliant and the owner has signed. Can I pass it even though it is nowhere near the standard?
Well, if you are an auditor and you consider it as a serious or critical safety concern, yes, that is what you are going to do, is you are going to then speak to the owner and say that this is a critical safety issue. If you can see this geyser is going to come through the roof at any time, it's your responsibility to inform the owner that this is a critical safety issue. I don't know if you're going to drain the geyser, but you're going to disconnect the geyser. If you see there's critical safety issues, you're going to disconnect this geyser and make it safe. You're going to ask the plumber to make it safe because it is a safety concern to the consumer. So just rephrase that question again for me, Sean.
Unfortunately, I have lost that question, but if you do want me to send it again to you, I can email it to you after the session.
Yeah, okay, but basically, if you're an auditor, you get to the site there and it's listed. So you once you've got, again, the plumber has done the right thing. So he's listed it on the non-compliances, but it's a critical safety issue. And if you can see this thing is really, really bad, it's your responsibility to take it up with the owner, take it up with the insurance company or the plumber and note it because it's of a health and safety concern to the consumer. And you being an auditor, having gone out there, you have now seen this, and if you walk away from it and you haven't notified the owner or the other responsible person again, I think it's your responsibility to take really note of it and address the problem. It doesn't mean that you have to climb in there, drain the geyser or anything like that, but you can then request the owner to please take care and note this. It's just non-negotiable. You just don't do things like that.
All right, and then we have got a follow-up from the previous question with the using cleats for to level the geyser. The follow-up is he's referring to the geyser level while the tray has a fall.
The geyser level, yes. I know there is a bee in the bonnet about the geyser standing level, but we are, once again, we are not talking about a serious change in leveling the geyser now, because we are just talking about elevating the tray at 25 millimeters. You can hardly notice it in the level of the geyser. The geyser is not going to malfunction or anything like that. I don't understand what the reasoning is. Maybe once again, I'll give my email. The gentleman can contact me and let's just talk about it.
All right, perfect. The next question reads, would any other platform design be acceptable providing the correct timber is used?
Yes, you can design it as you like. This is a suggestion. Once again, the standard is just clear as long as you are using the correct size timber and that the spacing is correct and that it supports it adequately and safely, because the standard does say there you must it must be adequately supported in a safe manner. And then they go into specifying the different types of timber. If you are using 38114, once again, it cannot lay flat. It must be on edge and then design in the way that the standard says, with support every 350 millimeters apart. And if you are going to put it in a flat fashion, you're going to use the 5152 as we suggested, because the standard says 5114, but we're going one size up. But if you've got your own design out there and it's going to deem to be adequate and you're using the correct size timber and the correct stress grade 5 timber, I don't see anything wrong with it, just as long as it is going to deem to be safe.
All right, the next question reads, why could a 75 by 50 not be used?
Because it's not described like that in the standard. The standard says 50 by 114. So now we're not going to downsize on something. If you go structurally, that it's like an unwritten rule. You'll rather go up than go down. You do never go down on structural support. You'll rather go up and oversize it than undersize it. So once again, the standard does not provide anything about 50/76 in the standard. So no, it will be a fail if you use a 50 by 76 to support the geyser.
All right. Unfortunately, guys, we are running out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and end off this session. Marius, is there anything you want to say to end it off?
If there are any more questions, please, my email is mariusvw@iopsa.org, mariusvw@iopsa.org. I'll answer them via email, or I'll even give you a phone call and we can chat about it and I can see how I can assist you. And if I don't have the answer, we are a lot of guys out there, of the auditors, senior auditors, that can assist us. And that's just why we are out there, is to assist you guys with the challenges out there that you experience in the insurance industry. And we know they are out there, and we are there to assist you with the information and interpretation of the standards. Thank you, Sean.
All right, perfect. Guys, I have sent out Marius's email through the chat, and to the remaining questions I have, let you know that I will pass it along after the session. Other than that, guys, I will go ahead and end off the session now. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I hope everyone enjoys the long weekend, and I hope to see everyone again, same time next Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye now.